Hi, everyone. I'm Don Sauce here. I'm the Faculty Associate Director of the Teaching and Learning Center, and you found your way to our professional development series. And we're very excited that you've done that. As many of you know, we meet in real time at noon on Wednesdays all throughout the academic year over Zoom. So this link will work unless we get hacked, and then we'll change it, and then we'll send you all a new link. But we'll meet at this link for the remainder of the academic year. And we also record these for asynchronous viewing. So after this, a couple hours from now, this will be available for viewing on the TLC webpage. And today's you definitely want to keep track of because this is something that's going to be super important for this university. It has been already, but definitely moving forward, this is an administrative priority. A couple of announcements before we get to today's main event. Number one, if you come to enough of these, you can become a TLC Professional Development Certificate winner. And if you're a faculty member and want to contribute to the excellence of others, you can also become a TLC Fellow. And my colleagues will drop the link to that in the chat for us now. It's also available on our webpage for anyone who's watching asynchronously. A couple of really cool events coming up. Next week, through New Faculty Institute, Andy Faber, do you want to talk about ins and outs of academic publishing here in a second? It'll be Tuesday, April 7th at 2 p.m. in Hale 581. But Andy, why should they come?
Because it's publishing is part of our job. Learning and disseminating what we learn is part of what we do as faculty here at the university. And it can sometimes feel overwhelming, even for those of us who have done some publishing already, been around for a little while. There's always new things to know. There's going to be a talk at the beginning. It's going to start with a panel on editing and contributing to an edited volume, which is something that I have contributed to an edited volume. I have never been an editor, so that's something that I'm really looking forward to, is learning more about that. We're also going to have people from the University Press of Kansas, which is our university press. It is the university press for all six state institutions here in Kansas. And so they're going to be available to talk with people about how to submit a book proposal, the kinds of books that they look at. And so any kinds of questions that you have about preparing a manuscript would be great to bring to them. We're also going to have members from our library team, the newly named, I don't remember, Open Publishing Exchange, I think. They're going to be there as well to talk about opportunities for open access publishing and the ways that the university can support that. So lots of fun opportunities, and just a great opportunity to have some refreshments and connect with your fellow faculty members here on campus and grad students as well. Grad students are welcome to this event. So if you're a grad student, I highly encourage you to participate as well. I think it's going to be great.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I dropped the information for that in the chat. Also, a couple weeks ago, we had an event on the Wakunzi Conference, and the Wakunzi Conference is an amazingly kind of scout camp experience for people who love teaching. It's awesome. It's at the end of May. It's May 22nd to 27th. It's right on the banks of Lake Michigan. And the provost is willing to potentially support applications to go, and those are due today. So if you're looking to get a little bit of money to support your trip to go there, I'm dropping that information for you in the chat, and that is due today. So if you're interested, definitely check that out. And one more thing I want to kind of put on your radar is coming soon, we will have our TLC Sodal Showcase. And the Sodal Showcase will be on Monday, May 11th, starting at 1:30 in Hale Library, room 581, the Hemisphere Room. And we are now accepting applications for oral presentations and poster presentations. And the link to that is available in what I just put up. We've also been trying to put this up on our social media and Teams. And Margaret Moore Schroeder sent an email to all instructors a day or two ago with this as well. So please check that out. And if you're saying, well, I don't know if what I'm doing is innovative enough, or I don't know if this really qualifies as Sodal, contact me and then I will tell you yes. So I will be very happy to kind of amplify your self-efficacy and self-esteem so that you actually do submit and we can showcase all the amazing stuff that you do. But please do reach out if you do have any questions. Next week, we will have a teaching chat. Teaching chat's opportunity for us to kind of go through whatever it is we're experiencing. And the topic for that chat that I'll be facilitating is surviving April. I think that April is an emotion. I think that October is an emotion. I think there's just times where you say, hey, it's April. Everyone knows what you mean. So we're going to be talking about how to get through the last bit of that semester, hopefully in really cool ways. But today we have a very, very special guest here, Dr. Lisa Melander, who is a professor of criminology in our SASW department here in Arts and Sciences. I guess for me, it's here in arts and sciences. For you, it might not be here in arts and sciences. But Dr. Lisa Melander will be talking about enhancing student learning through applied learning experiences. This is a campus initiative under our higher administration, and there's a number of different ways that these can manifest in your teaching. And Dr. Melander is going to tell us about a bunch of those. So, Lisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thanks for coming today. I see that I have some folks that I've been working with, been very fortunate to work with, Andy and Craig in particular, in moving towards applied learning across campus. So I might call on them. Maybe they'll hate me for that, but I think it will enhance our conversation. So can I share the screen now? Are we ready for that? Okay, cool. I have to send a request, and it's granted. Cool. Minimize that. Okay. Thank you for coming today. I'm really excited to have an opportunity to speak with you about applied learning experiences. A little bit about me, as you just heard from Dawn. I'm Lisa Melander. I'm from the Department of Sociology, Anthropology, and Social Work, and I've been a criminology faculty member since 2010. I can't believe it's been that long. Um, my research areas are in the intersection of family and crime, and so a lot of my research is looking at tech-facilitated violence and women's incarceration experiences and programming. So those are my main areas of research right now. But that has nothing to do with why I'm here talking to you today about applied learning experiences. Dean Culbertson appointed me to be a faculty fellow for applied learning in the College of Arts and Sciences. So I've been working with larger university initiatives. I guess it's almost been a year now, particularly with Craig, who's on the call. Um, but I just want to provide you with some information and some updates as we move forward with elevating our applied learning experiences that we have across campus. I know that we have talked about the next gen strategic plan an awful lot around the university, but I do want to highlight imperative 3. And the reason I want to highlight it is because it has a lot to do with what we're talking about today. We will provide every degree seeking student with applied learning experiences before they graduate. And I think this is really important that we are recognizing the value of having these real world application kinds of experiences for our students, because I believe that it really enhances what we're doing in our classrooms when we get outside of the classroom and go into our communities. So I am really curious, and I'm going to stop my share right now because I'd really like to hear what your experiences are with applied learning. Little interactive time, if anyone wants to share.
So, Lisa, I would say that probably the ones I'm most familiar with and most involved in are undergraduate research, both in the undergraduate research lab that I do for my own scholarship, but also involved in other ways in the classes that I teach.
That's great.
So we do. I'm in modern languages, and I oversee our basic language program with Dr. Hale. So we've developed, we incorporate telecollaboration sessions in our basic language classes. And so students are using the language right off the bat. They meet with coaches weekly and just have informal conversations. And then they have a preparation thing, they have the conversation, and then they reflect on like what went well and what are things that they could improve on. So that's a way that they're applying their learning in the classroom to have real conversations with real human beings. And students have really enjoyed it. They feel like even in Spanish 1, they're like, oh my gosh, I can have a conversation. So that's really exciting.
That's great. Thank you. You actually are talking about something I was going to bring up later. So maybe we can just all go home. I'm just kidding. That's great. I love what you all are doing in your departments. It's great. Okay, I'll get back to my screen, but my basic point is applied learning experiences look very different across campus, across disciplines, but they all have kind of the same sort of elements. So I have the web pages, just pictures of the web pages for a few of the national associations, and they call their applied learning experiential education. So not only do our terms differ, but I still argue that our main focus, and this is our working definition that we have at the university, is that applied learning experiences all are an educational approach. It's a pedagogy that involves an ongoing cycle of purposeful experience, intentional observation, and critical reflection. So it's really applying that knowledge and the skills that you gain in the classroom to practical settings, which is definitely beneficial for our students. So then we have our students develop new understandings and then apply it to new situations. So in my opinion, it doesn't really matter what we call it as long as we are preparing our students for these experiences that will enhance not only their K-State experience, but also what they do after they leave the university. So there are 6 main categories of applied learning that we have at the university, and there are community engaged learning, global, internships, research, creative, and leadership. I'm going to give you some examples of each of these. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about the current applied learning requirements. So in order for a class to be considered applied learning and to receive an AIL tag, which I'll talk about in a little bit, the first requirement is that there has to be at least 45 hours of engagement in total. So it's equivalent to 1 credit hour. The course, I should say, does not need to be credit bearing. So you could have an experience outside of the classroom, like let's say a student has a work study experience that they're not enrolled in a class for, they still could receive applied learning credit for it. So does not have to be credit bearing. Second requirement is that the course needs to be intentionally designed to develop professional, technical, and interpersonal skills with assessed learning outcomes and competencies. And then the third requirement has the purposeful experience, active engagement, and critical reflection requirements. So I'll talk about in a little bit what this can look like in each of your classes as well. So the first category of applied learning experiences that I'm going to talk about today is community engaged learning. So this is talking about when you're integrating academic learning with relevant community-based work that engages students, faculty, staff, and community members through reciprocal partnership. There are a lot of different examples of community engaged learning that are occurring across campus. So there's the mobile vet clinic. I mean, if you've been walking around downtown, you'll sometimes see that around where they are providing veterinary skills, I guess, or they're helping little dogs. I mean, like, who doesn't love that? They're doing this in the community for free. Another one that I want to highlight that is in the College of Arts and Sciences is Tap to Togetherness. And it is near and dear to my heart because my own children participated in this program. They partner with parents as teachers in the community, and they work with parents and their kids to not just learn dancing skills, because it's not a dance class per se, but it's interacting with the children to get them to be aware of their bodies and movement and interacting with parents. And the other side part of this is they have been observing parents and their technology interactions, and they've found that as the sessions progress, parents are reaching for technology less and less. So it's really a cool partnership that is not just in the United States, but it is spread to other countries. So it's just a really good example of community engaged learning. The other area is global. So at one point, prior to me joining this work, it was initially called study abroad, but that did not cover the range of experiences. So it's now called global experiences, and it's learning activities that occur outside the participant's home country or the country in which they are enrolled as a student. So like Andy was talking about, Modern Languages has a lot of different opportunities that are on campus through kind of like, I can't remember what she called it. She can correct me when I'm wrong, but something like a conversation club where they have an opportunity to learn with students from other countries, practice language skills back and forth. They also, of course, are strong proponents of study abroad programs. We also have students from other disciplines who participate in study abroad programs. Like, who doesn't want to go to Paris with poli sci in the middle of December? Or I think that this looks like a really fun geology trip that they went on. So lots of different opportunities for our students to step outside of the United States and get another cultural context. Creative, there are some amazing experiences that are available for our students across the university in this creative area. It's where learners demonstrate mastery of professional, relevant, or transferable competencies through the practice and honing of skills, and then applying them to an innovative challenge or inspired design. So another thing that I will talk about in a little bit are some applied learning incentive grants that faculty have applied for. And I want to highlight two of them that are within this creative category. The first is the undergraduate certificate and a minor in instrument repair for music educators. So this was awarded, I can't remember if it was fall or spring, but they're teaching students how to acquire the skills to go into the musical instrument repair industry, which is such a niche industry, but it is very, very important. And then there's also Spotfire Press. So it's an undergraduate student publishing initiative, and this goes across colleges. So we have faculty from art and English and landscape architecture and the libraries and university printing all coming together to help support students as they are publishing their limited edition prints, zines, posters, and wearables. It's just really, really cool what they're working on in those different departments. Internships are occurring across the university, and with internships, we really want them to have mutually agreed upon goals, clearly defined learning objectives, and direct supervision by a professional with relevant experiences to provide them with meaningful feedback and guidance for the students. This is probably the area that I have the most experience with in terms of applied learning for students. So I threw up some pictures so you could see what my students have been up to. So this is Madison, and she was in her internship this summer with a medical examiner's office. So she was combining her love of criminology with her aspirations to go to medical school. And I mean, students have a wide range of goals that they want to achieve, and hers is to become a medical examiner someday. And this is another former student of mine, Jada. She was doing an internship with law enforcement. We have students do internships with law enforcement all the time at the local and federal levels. And she was very, very brave and had a day where they had the dog training. I think that sounds terrifying, but Jada was all about it. So that was very cool. The AQ Miller School also has this Job Ready program, and they have 3 different kinds of internships. The Chapman Center is so great, and they fund student internships throughout the summer as well and throughout the school year. Psychology has a really robust internship program. I'm missing all the shout outs that I should give, but internships are alive and well at the university, and students are really benefiting from these experiences. Leadership is another way that students can get an applied learning experience. So the learner is responsible for influencing positive change within a group. Their experiences may be academic or extracurricular, related to a formal position of academic relevance, or involved in engagement in an authentic community challenge. So I guess for me, a good example of what leadership could look like is SGA, the Student Government Association. No one could argue that it's not a 45-hour commitment. These students work really long hours to affect positive change for students across the campus. I will also say that the Staley School has many leadership opportunities that our university should definitely be proud of. Research. So one of my favorite committees that I serve on at the university is IRB. And I know you probably are surprised about that. And you're probably like, oh no. But the reason that I'm very excited about serving on IRB is I get to see all of the very cool research. Well, not all of it, just the ones that are assigned to me, but lots of cool research that's occurring across the university. And a lot of this research does involve our students. The sky is kind of the limit on what research can look like, but A lot of this is with a faculty mentor, either here at the university or in the case of REUs that we see in chemistry and biology and math, it could be with a partner out with a professional outside of the university. So lots of different examples of what research can look like at K-State. So where are we now? I don't know how much people in the room have heard about the Applied Learning Experiences Initiative at the United States. I am really tired. At the university. But the provost at this time is not pursuing an applied learning graduation requirement. However, our goal is still to have 100% participation for our students in applied learning by the year 2030. And kind of helping us get an idea of what applied learning looks like is U-Scale. So it's the University Steering Committee for Applied Learning Experiences. And the charge of this committee is to identify areas for growth in applied learning experiences and innovation for future applied learning experiences. So if you are a department head or a program coordinator or something like that, you maybe received an invitation to complete a survey. I think it was like 2-3 weeks ago, and that is where we are, as a part of U-Scale, we are trying to get an idea of what applied learning activities exist within your departments at this time. So then we know where to go next. So one pathway in this applied learning initiative to help students kind of see what is possible for applied learning at the university is to apply to have your class recognized as applied learning. So having a course designation as applied learning, that's referencing back to that AIL tag that I was just talking about. And the course identification process is such that you kind of start your course in the same sort of fashion. I thought for a minute that I would pull up Curriculog and walk you through it all, but as we know, we're transitioning from Curriculog to CourseDog, so I thought I'm not going to do that. But the required parts of what it means to have a course designation will stay the same. So there is a student planning form, which I'll drop all these hyperlinks in the chat for you in a minute. And in this form, students do what they should be doing and thinking before the internship, before the research project starts, having some goal setting. So what are they thinking about before the experience starts in those initial steps on what learning outcomes they want to accomplish and how they will accomplish them? Some of the best practices around applied learning require reflections that happen throughout the experience. For a course to be tagged as applied learning, you need to have 3 formative reflections sometime throughout the course. So in these, students are reflecting on what they are gaining from the experience. The reflections are also really nice because they can help a student pivot when something is going awry. So for example, if you have a student who's in an internship and they're not meeting their goals that they were hoping to meet, maybe it's a time to have a discussion with that student on how we can adjust some of the goals, or perhaps it's time to mentor a student on how they can talk to their site supervisor about getting to those initial goals. Speaking of mentors, mentors can be, depending on the applied learning experience, it could be the faculty member who's teaching the class. If it's for an internship, it could be the site supervisor, so the person in the field who's supervising the intern. In the research lab, it could be a variety of folks who could be charged with that. But in the timesheet and mentor log requirement, this is where students are tracking their hours to ensure that they're meeting their 45-hour commitment and that they're having continuous conversations with that mentor to guide them throughout their applied learning experience. And then finally, there's a reflection submission. It makes sense at the end of the experience to take a minute and kind of reflect on what this process has meant to you and how you've grown in your academic journey as a result of this experience. So I'll show you some examples of what it looks like because I'm a visual person and I think it's nice to see what it could look like. You are able to So the Applied Learning Office has done a really nice job of creating all of these documents that are required. And the only form that you must fill out or must have available to your students is the student planning form, the formative reflections, the mentor log, and the reflection submission. These three can be, you can substitute your own experience as long as it meets the requirements. So I'll show you what that can look like. Let me stop my share for a minute so I can find my other tab. So one thing, if you would like to have your class tagged as an applied learning experience, is your own syllabus. And the nice thing is there is a beautiful template and pretty standard information at the top with course expectations, learning goals and outcomes, grading, all of the things. So the ALE student plan, that is the form that I talked about. That is what you'll need to use. Students will need to use kind of as that preliminary goal setting. I was going to show you that form today, and I messaged Maggie, who works for the Applied Learning Office, and she said that there is a quiz that will be ready for us all to use. I'll show you how to get to that, but there are some updates that are happening. So if you are going to import that quiz, perhaps wait until next Friday to import it to make sure that all the fixes have occurred. So for the student planning form, I've kind of done my own add-on just because of internships. It is all great when a student sets their own goals, but for internships, sometimes it's helpful to have the mentor in on those discussions because in criminology, students might say, my goal is to arrest 5 bad guys. And yes, law enforcement does say bad guys. The reality of the situation is they probably won't be doing that. And so having students temper their aspirational goals with reality is something that a mentor is very helpful with. So I have students do a supplemental form. I'll show you in a minute. Instead of doing a mentor log, I have my students do weekly journals, which I've always had students do weekly journals, but it's changed a little bit because in this way, I'm having them log their weekly hours and their cumulative hours so then I can keep track of them a little bit more in depth. And then finally, that reflection paper that I was talking about. Oh, and I should say the weekly journals, I mean, they're usually in their internships at least 12 weeks. So I definitely hit that mark of 3 reflections. And then the final paper, I've always had an organizational paper, but I have included some of the additional components that the Applied Learning Office would like us to look at in terms of like ethics, skills acquisition, and then recommendations. So all of that can show you how you can modify your existing coursework to meet the needs of the Applied Learning Office. So here is what I had before for the student learning contract. I have a little info video to kind of tell them about applied learning, but this was the old proposal form. So it talks about having students answer questions about engagement and then their guidance, how their goals will be assessed, who will mentor them, ensuring that they're having a purposeful experience, ensuring that they're thinking about active engagement, and critically reflecting. And this talks about that last summary reflection that they'll be asked to do. So I took these materials and had students fill this part out first and bring this in with them when they met with their internship supervisors. So then they could still fill out the form that I initially had, where they could talk about objectives, timeframes, and evaluations and agree with the agency supervisor on those. So if you are kind of new to this, maybe you think, gosh, I am not ready to have my own class materials. I kind of want to see the templates that have been developed already. If you go to your Canvas dashboard and you go to Commons, this was new to me, by the way, maybe this is old to you all, but I had no idea that this existed before I was beginning the applied learning. And if you type in applied learning experiences, you can see these two modules here. Let's see, that have the materials that you will need for your classes. So this is where you can find, oh, where did that quiz go? This one. This new quiz is the form that you will have to have. It's the one required form. And then it should be fixed by next Friday. So come back to the comments next Friday and make sure you check that out. I also want you to know that there are lots of sources of support for you as you are developing your applied learning courses. So the Applied Learning Office is putting on some workshops in each of the 6 different areas. If you need some help with your own course development, I'm partnering with the Career Center, and I think our first one is next month. I would love to have you join us and talk about everything internships. There's also financial support that has been available for faculty and for students. So the U-Scale Grants Committee has awarded $390,245 to faculty and staff to support 24 new courses. So there were grant calls for grants that came out last spring and this fall. And so there has been financial support for faculty in that way. There isn't going to be a call for this spring, but please check back at that link just to see if that's updated and if there are more funding opportunities. For students, there's a wide variety of financial support. So I did go on to the web pages for each college at the university and have a link there that lists the different kinds of financial opportunities that colleges have. So for example, business, AP design, and engineering all mention funds available for study abroad. Leadership Studies has the Developing Scholars Program, Trio McNair's, and undergrad research. Education has a wide variety of scholarships that could be useful for completing an AIL, such as their Call Me Mr. Mentoring program. Ag has federal work study and summer aid options. Health and Human Sciences has continuing student scholarships. And Arts and Sciences has research, travel, and also internship specific funds. So I was just looking on the college website. Each department has some other funds that can be used to support students and offset any costs that they may incur while they're in their applied learning experience. So I was asked to give a talk a few weeks ago about, and it was actually the Meadowlark, and it was over Viktor Frankl's book, Finding Purpose in Life. And there was this one quote, and it was in the afterword. Yes, I read the afterword of a book. And his most famous quote to me is, "The meaning of your life is to help others find the meaning of theirs." And I just really think that that fits really well with what we're trying to do with our students. These are all of the students that I've had in previous classes that have done internships with me. And these experiences really matter in helping them get to their next step in their personal journey. So I'm just really excited and feel very happy to be part of this whole experience. Anytime you have any questions and want to talk applied learning, please reach out to me. But like I said, there are other people who are on this call who have a lot of great information about applied learning. But if anyone has questions for me, I'm here for it.
So Lisa, thank you so much for that. I think a lot of the conversations that I've kind of seen in this space are people who are concerned about what they might have to do to lift their class to the levels to get it to actually qualify as an applied learning experience because they think they're doing the stuff, but they're worried about kind of making that transition to be doing it officially. So I was wondering if you had any kind of insights or a pep talk for people who might be kind of looking at that uplift.
That's a great question. And I don't think I said this very clearly, but I want to acknowledge that K-State has a rich history and tradition of doing applied learning. We just do. And that's why I wanted to hear examples of what your experiences are with applied learning. We're trying at this stage to make it so the student experience is a little bit more consistent, which is part of the reason for having the different requirements that I talked about and the different forms and all of that. And I want to say don't be scared because we know that you are doing great things for our students. You're providing them with excellent opportunities. And there have been some really great ideas and changes that have come from the Applied Learning Office in terms of the forms that we have. Only one form is required now. So it is really likely that you're probably asking your students to reflect at least 3 times in the semester. So can some of those reflection assignments be used in lieu of the general reflection assignment? Probably so. It's pretty easy to make the case that you're having students who are thinking deeply about their experiences. The mentor log, that is something you have to kind of think about. Do you want to do the sheet that is provided by the Applied Learning Office is just an Excel spreadsheet, and it can be pretty easy for students to fill that out. But are there other ways that you could track that? So if you are in a research experience, could you track that on a lab report? Internships, journals are a very easy way to track that time. So I would say come talk to Craig or Maggie or me or whoever if you have any questions, because we want to help you. And I will say I'm on the ALE course team, and my experience has been it's a committee of curiosity, right? If there are any questions, it's like, I want to know more about this. I think that this counts. So it has been a very collaborative experience, and it's exciting to hear about the applied learning opportunities across campus. So we're here to help.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the positivity and the optimism kind of in that statement, because I think it's something where people when they hear the stuff, they think more work. And it's kind of it's helpful to hear that it's maybe not as quite as much as people might think.
Agreed. I hear you. Every time I open an email, I'm thinking, oh no, this is more work for me. Um, I'm not going to say there won't be anything additional, but I do imagine that people who are very thoughtful and passionate and like recognize the importance of applied learning are probably doing most of the things already. And so, how do we see that and apply it to the framework? And before I forget, I'm going to post in those links in case you want them.
So what other questions do we have for Dr. Melander, or experiences that y'all have with applied learning experiences, the cool things that you're doing with your students? What would people like to share?
So Lisa, I have a question. Maybe I'm not looking in the right place. But I teach the DIS 101 for arts and sciences, and so I've talked with students a little bit about applied learning, but I'm wondering there's so much possibility out there. Are there plans to add more to the website to help guide students? Um, or am I looking in the wrong place for those things? I mainly I start with the Staley website and then click on the different experiences and talk about what they are. But I'm just wondering how else to guide students that want to know more in looking that direction.
Love that question, and I can answer it for you in particular because I work with arts and sciences. We have a website in arts and sciences that is dedicated to applied learning. And I would be in a nice way to say it's under construction because I'm still working with Marsha Locke, and I've been working with Mary Kane and thinking about what do we all want to put on there. And so I would love your input on what you think should be there, because the goal is to have a catalog of experiences specific to arts and sciences on the website.
Awesome. I figured it was just kind of an in the works thing because there's so much work that you all are doing on this and it's great. Um, my little 2 cents would be as many student stories as possible, especially short videos. And even if it's a student who's doing it now that's not doing it as a requirement, but when students hear from another student, hey, I did this with SGA. Hey, I did this research with Johnson Cancer Research. Hey, I did this. Hey, I did that. Especially if they're just those little 30-second clips and more accessible that way. I know that's a big lift to create those, but that would be wonderful for students to be able to see that.
Yeah, that's great. Craig has dropped a couple useful chats or useful links in the chat. I will say, I was very excited. We now have internship scholarships available for arts and science students. Plus, we've had the research awards as well. And Marcia is contacting those student winners to talk about their experiences. But I do like your perspective of it being 30 seconds because a short little burst of info is very helpful. So I will pass that along to Marcia. Thank you.
I
So
have a
Lisa,
bit of a lo
oh, sorry, please go ahead, Andy.
oh, I was just going to say, I have a bit of a logistical question that I'm not sure if you can answer or if is better to talk about later. But we were interested in tagging our basic language courses with the AL tag because what we're doing aligns already with pretty much what the requirements are for it. But we had an issue that we were told that because a lot of students come to K-State and transfer in Spanish 1 from other institutions, that made it that if they were to transfer in, it would be tagged as AL even if they didn't have that applied learning experience. And so at this point, it seems like we can't tag it, that if we did tag it, we wouldn't be able to then accept credits from students from other universities.
Yeah,
So do you have any information about like transfer credits and the way that like this interplays with that?
that is an excellent question. And I raised this. The question came from Jeff, and I raised it with Craig's office. And maybe Craig could weigh in on that if he's in a space to do it. And if he's not in a space to do it, I will follow up with Craig later and provide you with some information because, yeah, it does get really tricky about the transfer. So the initial advice was if you have classes that transfer in a lot, maybe wait so we can get some more guidance. I believe what Craig had said, and please correct me if you can, Craig, I believed it was kind of like a Board of Regents kind of conversation at that time. Here comes Craig to answer.
Yeah, it is. And without a graduation requirement, it really doesn't matter because we're not giving them any credit here in terms of towards their graduation. So, yes, if a course is tagged or designated as an applied learning experience and they transfer in the equivalent course from another university, we would need to give them that applied learning experience for that course. There's a workaround, but we don't want to work around KBOR. So if that comes into play and we have a graduation requirement, then we'll work with them to see what we can do. My hope is from our office that if we're talking about Spanish 101, that they would have many other opportunities that they would get another course that was an applied learning experience as well. But we also this extends into what about courses that go abroad? And so if you're teaching them abroad, then they should be or could be applied learning experiences. And Education Abroad Office wants to do that. But that course, when taught on campus, is not an applied learning experience. And that's okay. And so how do we navigate that? So those are good questions that we don't have all of the answers for. And we're working towards solutions to those. But without the graduation requirement, then it's not necessary. It's more about getting the experience to the student. So including these elements, whether it's designated or not, can still have that impact for the students.
Thanks, Craig.
So Lisa, one of the things you mentioned before, grants that are being given to support some of these things. I'm thinking about like enticing faculty to want to do these. So what kinds of things are people getting funding for the applied learning experiences?
Oh my gosh, it's really cool. So I serve on that committee too. Just, I like committees, I guess. But the research that faculty or the experiences that faculty are offering are pretty amazing. The Spotfire Press that I briefly highlighted is really cool because it's a transdisciplinary initiative. And they brought me into the art studio to show me this press, and students were bringing out their work. And it's not just students in arts and sciences, it's students across the university getting to have this really cool print. I don't even know, it's a printing press sort of thing. Like, I am not an art person, sorry. But they get to have this creative outlet that helps them enhance, their different products, their branding, whatever that they're working on. So that is one. There was also a research project, and Craig, I might mix this up, but it was talking about having a global experience going to the blue zones. So people, areas where folks live to be 100 plus and at rates higher than any other place in the world. And so they are approaching it from a gerontology perspective, from a nutrition perspective. I'm probably missing someone, but it's really interesting. It gives students a good holistic experience it's one thing to read about people living in these spaces. It's another thing to go there and experience it and talk with people on the ground there. So that's another example of something that I can think about. But it has been really exciting to see faculty innovation in these areas. Lots of growth. Oh, and Craig just dropped a podcast. And the winners are listed on the ALE website too.
So we're coming up on our last couple of minutes. Are there any additional questions or experiences that people would like to share? All right. Well, thank you, Lisa, so much for a wonderful presentation about applied learning experiences. And thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Craig, for all the stuff that you're doing to lead our campus toward these goals. Couple announcements, just repeating some of what we did in the morning. Remind you that we have an opportunity if you earn a professional development certificate for attending these, opportunity for becoming a TLC fellow. Applications for Wakunzi funding, if you want to go to that amazing conference, are due today. And you can check out our webpage for all of these links. Next Tuesday, April 7th at 2 o'clock in Hale 581. We have an event on the ins and outs of academic publishing that we think will have a lot of relevance for lots of us, no matter who we are, grad students, faculty, staff, etc. Also, our TLC SOTL Showcase, we're accepting applications for oral presentations and poster presentations. That will be Monday, May 11th in Hale Library 581. But you can get those in. And again, if you have questions or need a pep talk for getting a submission in, reach out to me and I'll tell you why you're awesome. And then next week, our next event in our TLC series will be a teaching chat on surviving April. And I'm very excited to hear all the ways that all of us are doing to keep ourselves and our students positive for the remainder of the semester. As always, thank you so much for being here today. I thank you for all that you do on our campus. If you have any questions, stick around. But otherwise, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you. See ya.